Well, well, here we are. It's 2023, and we have to go over all the movies that Astile Doherty saw in 2022 because the whole world needs to know about it. I'm ready to talk about them. Are you ready to talk about them? So yeah, let's just get into it.
Awful, 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 awful. Everyone in this movie can just fucking stop. Except Tom Hanks.
I already talked about this movie. This universe they're trying to build up is a shit show. I'm done with the MCU. I'm probably done with this universe. I'm going to continue to watch their movies as long as they come out and either ridicule or surprisingly praise them. I don't know. I can't say. All I can really say is that nothing I haven't said before. I mean, you've seen my quickie, surely, if you've watched this video. If you haven't, I'll leave it in the description, but this film was genuinely just bafflingly awful. It didn't look good to begin with, but, like, what a way to take a, like, maybe even slightly interesting concept. They did it quite well in the animated series, as far as I know, and just trash it. And Jared Leto, just, you know what, I don't want to get into that, but I do not like that bastard one bit. Like, just fuck this movie.
I am going to say, though, I fucking love the memes that came from this movie. It's been such a long time since people unanimously clowned on a movie like this. It really does bring people together, and I love that about this movie. That's the only thing I genuinely love.
Unlike Morbius, which I just found kind of embarrassingly pathetic and kind of awful, Scream, or Five Cream as it should have been called, I'm so angry they didn't call it Five Cream. They went with Scree Forum, and they're even doing Scree VI, Scree 6, like, not Five Cream, though. It's not even a reboot, so I don't know why they're just calling it Scream. It's just a tendency to make a sequel to a movie that hasn't had a sequel in a long time and call it the original title. Apparently that's just the go-to option nowadays. Anyway, this movie genuinely pissed me off. I hate this movie so much. As someone who is a fan of the Scream movies, that's why it made me so unjustifiably angry. I liked the opening scene. It's good. The build-up, it's obvious, like, Scream Ghost Killer calls you. The most surprising twist, obviously, being that the character in the scenario survived. I guess that was kind of interesting. There are some good scenes. It's nice to have Sydney back, as well as Gale Weathers. And Dewey, of course, they were going to kill one of the legacy characters, and it had to be the one that people generally quite like. Maybe David Arquette just didn't want to be part of this fucking stupid franchise anymore, even though the first 4 films are, in my opinion at least, good or great. Like, they sort of vary in between. I like Scream 3, I really like Scream 4, I genuinely think it was the best one since the first movie. I love the first movie.
For the term psychotic.
We'll never get away with this.
The second film is not perfect, but it's still a pretty good film. I was kind of hoping they would just bring back Stu Marker, but they went with that really lame horror movie fan twist that they always go for. I'm like, how much more interesting would it have been if you actually went in a different direction, you did something unlikely and stupid and impossible and embraced the campiness and brought Stu Marker back, even if it had to be fucking Jason Lives style. Like, why not? At this point, who would care? It's just what fans want to see. It's what Matthew Lillard wants to fucking see. Like, the actual actor. It's like, I get it, you couldn't do it the first time because of a high school massacre, but school shootings happen every week now, so you don't have an excuse there. Matthew Lillard wants to do it, so you can't say that it's a matter of getting him on board, because he would say yes, like that. And it's not a matter of you, like, trying to hide the past, because you're referencing all of these things, like one of the main characters where the final murders take place, and this was like the main villain's master plan. I'll try not to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but who the fuck cares anyway. It takes place at the old Marker house, I think, which has been remodeled a little bit, but like where the original film took place, and there's all these references and all this other stuff, and it tries to have a bit of an emotional core with like Dewey and Gale being divorced and shit, but I'm like, who actually cares? It's like, they already had their happy conclusion. Like, why do we need this, you know? You could have just left them out of the movie and said, I don't know, they moved to fucking Hawaii or something. What are you going to say about Sydney in Scream 6? Because you didn't pay her enough money to fucking come back, even though she probably deserved it. So what the fuck are you going to do about Sydney? Just say that she's with her family or whatever, or kill her off screen? Whatever you... Honestly, do whatever you want, because I doubt Neve Prescott's going to come back after you treated her so poorly and brought her back into the franchise. God forbid she's the best thing about the movie, probably, but you brought her back into a shit show. Like, honestly, I can't talk about this movie. It just makes me angry. I guess it's slightly better than Morbius, because that was actually appallingly awful. At least I can say Scream on a technical level it's quality. Like, it's standard as fuck, but it's good. I would say on a technical level, it is good. And the kills are cool. There are some, again, surprising moments. I wasn't expecting the killer to be who it was. I just hated the twist. I thought it was really stupid. I guess not all the characters dying is kind of funny. I guess it emphasizes that these killers are kind of amateurs. But then again, so were Billy and Stu, and they still kill people flawlessly, but whatever. And that's another thing. The Billy ghost plot was so mind-numbingly retarded. I actually hated it. It just genuinely annoyed me. It was nice seeing that cute little rat-faced bastard come back again. That was cool. We got a little red herring with Stu's, like, felony convicted cousin being a character who gets murdered in, like, 5 minutes, but whatever. Again, like, saying pointless references to the original movie. I almost never want to watch this again. I'm gonna watch the new movie, but we'll see what happens. Smile was okay. It wasn't good. It was really stupid. And I thought the acting in the film was genuinely quite bad. The story was dumb. It's demon possession story thing. I could talk forever about the ways that this film doesn't make sense, how the ending is really stupid and underwhelming. It has a few cool things about it. The design of the creature is interesting. Of course, the cat scene is hilarious. It's really funny.
Oh my god. No, I promise you this wasn't me. It wasn't me, I swear.
I would say maybe I don't think this movie's quite as bad as a lot of other people seem to think it is. It just isn't a great movie. It's not insultingly bad like a few other Blumhouse productions that come to mind when I think about Blumhouse, but it's okay, like, for the standard. I mean, they've made some good movies, but the standard they often set themselves at, it's, in comparison, honestly pretty good. Like, it's still like a 4 out of 10. Like, not a good movie at all, really, but it has things about it that I don't mind. Again, it's kind of funny sometimes. Not enough to warrant, like, loving it as an ironic masterpiece or anything, but definitely not scary. I'll say that much. It's just... I genuinely hate Minions so much. I hate to be this guy, but the way this film, like, contradicts the events of the original Despicable Me movies. The tuxedo shit that I saw was just hilarious to me. I mean, fuck all those people that, like, vandalized the cinema. Like, you guys are dicks, but, like, you know, still... I don't know what to fucking say about this movie. Like, it was a stupid kids film. It's not a great kids movie like Coraline or the Puss in Boots movie, which I'll talk about later, or even Turning Red, where they have like a point and, you know, they want to teach a kid something. It's just stupid, dumb, goofy Minion hijinks. Michelle Yeoh's in it for a bit as this instructor. That scene is not funny at all, by the way. The Minions are supposed to be like silent slapstick comedy, but there's also like talking and stuff. It's not quite Buster Keaton, I'll put it that way. But the Minions movies, they're just a terrible idea. Like, I was kind of hyped for this movie because it looked so fucking stupid. Steve Carell as a young Gru is actually kind of funny to me for some reason. Final battle is, oh my god, it's so epic. It's Marvel tier. I'm not even joking. It did rival Wakanda Forever in some of its scope. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't like the Minions. All the characters are annoying except Gru and the Professor, maybe, even though he's only in it for like 5 seconds, and probably only because he's voiced by Russell Brand. I don't know what to say about this movie. It's not good. It's another Illumination average or below average or downright awful film. It sucks. But it's not the worst thing ever. It didn't make me angry or upset. I didn't even think it was particularly lazy. It was lazy, but it wasn't particularly lazy. Like, I'm just moving on. Okay. I guess everyone's had their controversial stances on this film. I'm just gonna have my completely neutral, unbiased stance. Rape and sexual assault in films, it's fine if it has like artistic merit or it's being used in the story in a meaningful way, like in The Last Duel. You know, Blonde isn't like awful. The story kind of sucks. Its structure is all over the place. Ana de Armas just... I'm sorry, but her Cuban accent is too heavy. She looks the part. Like, sometimes I struggle to tell, like, looking at pictures of her and the real-life Marilyn Monroe, or Norma Jean, as we'll refer to her in this section. I'm like, which one's which? You know, I mean, you can kind of tell, sort of, if you look carefully, but at, like, a glance, you're like, oh, I can't fucking tell. You know, which is, it's quite a compliment. Like, with Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, I can still tell, like, it's Rami Malek. He does look the part quite significantly, but something about Ana de Armas is so physically perfect about Norma Jean. It's like, holy shit. And I guess going back to the actual movie itself, it's interesting. It's got its colour scenes, its black and white scenes, it changes its aspect ratio. It all looks interesting. That weird trippy, like, moving mouth LSD shit at the end of the movie, that was interesting. But it's just dull as dishwater. It's too long. I'm not saying long movies are inherently boring. I mean, Once Upon a Time in America is a great movie, but like, this film doesn't use its time in an interesting way. It just kind of sucks. Like, it's boring. It's just joyless and devoid of any real, like, personality. It's trying too hard to be artsy and also be a big ass Netflix release movie at the same time. It's like, pick one or the other, or do both, but in a more cohesive, interesting way. And all the shit that the directors come out saying about these sluts of the era, or whatever the exact quote was, I'll put it on the screen, but fucking hell, dude, calm down. Like I said, it's just not fun. It's just joyless and irritating, and I wasn't even shocked or repulsed or angered by it. I was just like, this is just stupid. And of course, it takes the real life story about Marilyn Monroe, makes it this, which, you know, based on what records exist. Abuse in the industry is pretty well documented. You know, like, at this point, we're pretty much aware of all known cases that go far back then. I believe she was a troubled woman with a drug addiction who had a bit of a downward spiral towards the end of her life, and maybe didn't have a perfect life overall, but I don't think at least most of this stuff fucking happened to her. Like, pretty sure she had an affair with John F. Kennedy, but I don't think it was an unconsensual blowjob. I'm pretty sure, again, with like the whole Bill Clinton thing and all that stuff, like, I feel like it would have been exposed by now. So, yeah, it's just, I don't like Blonde. It's very brunette to me. That's mean against brunettes. I like brunettes. I'm just joking. Yeah, The Munsters. I have no affinity with the original show, but I like Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon Zombie, so I watched this movie. It's very cartoonish and weird. It's very cheap. Like, you can see the low budget in it, or the way it's made at least makes it feel cheap. It's almost like too cartoony and weird. I guess it's like a prequel explaining how the Munsters came to be. It doesn't have any of the kid characters or the pet that lives under the stairs in it, which I guess for a fan of the Munsters would be a bit disappointing. Maybe Rob Zombie was hoping there'd be a sequel. Maybe there will be. I can tell that he's passionate about this property. Like, I'm assuming that it was pretty much exactly like this, the original show. He does come across as an actual fan. It's not like dark, gritty, gory, and miserable like all those other movies are, or dark humoured. It's clearly made for, like, its intended audience of either children or people who grew up watching the show, or people who still like the show and watch the reruns on, like, Classic FX, Turner Classic Movies or whatever. I don't know where you can watch it, or have the whole thing on Blu-ray or DVD. It's not for me. I still didn't think it was horrible. Obviously, it has its loose as hell plot. Like I said, it feels very cheap. It's really stupid. There are some kind of charming and funny things about it. Sherry Moon Zombie's performance is so bizarre. I actually really love it. The costume and makeup design isn't the worst thing ever. And again, I think it's trying to be cartoony and weird and cheap, so I won't take that away from it. This film was just, again, kind of like Scream, but not as aggravating. Just a kind of dumb, pointless reboot of... is it a reboot? I actually couldn't tell if it was a reboot or a sequel. I have no idea. It didn't come across as a direct sequel. I remember the original main character comes back and tries to kill Leatherface. I'm pretty sure she dies a grisly death, and they have a little fight. There's that really cringeworthy "you're live, bro" scene, which was really dumb, when he massacres a bus full of people.
It was a freak show. Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
modern people aren't like this. I get it. They're thick and retarded as fuck, and they record and photograph almost everything, even each other. When we're blackout drunk, we fucking record and take pictures of each other. But we don't stop and record and live stream murderers. Like, if we see someone in a leather face human mask with a chainsaw covered in blood, we don't stop and record that shit. We might run away and record it so there's evidence, because we're not completely stupid people nowadays, but we don't just stand there and try and get views from it. You know, that's more of an afterthought, being as complimentary as possible to the modern generation. It might still be a thought, but it's definitely an afterthought to fucking survival, to actually enjoy that exposure. Anyway, that just annoyed me. Main characters, what can I say about them? They suck. They're dull as doormats. The acting is really not very good. The whole thing about, I guess, the troubled younger sister, like, whatever, it's been done a million times, and that's fine. If it was done interestingly in this movie, I wouldn't care, but it's not. It sucks. The gore, I guess, is actually kind of tame. I'd definitely watch the original film over this. I was kind of excited. I thought maybe it would be unique, different, and interesting, but it just wasn't. Leatherface in this movie kind of sucks. I'm trying to even remember. It's like he lives with some old lady, but the bank forecloses because these people want to turn the isolated hick town into some modern, friendly world, like utopia for phone lovers. I'm like, okay, why? Like, why do you care? Just leave these fucking hicks and incestuous people and this weird-ass sheriff character to just do their thing. Like, who gives a shit? I get it, it's outdated as all hell, but if they're happy doing it and they don't bother anyone, fine. Because you bothered them, Leatherface is going to kill you. I guess it's a whole outsider coming in and being fended off by a mentally challenged insider. There you go. That's the whole movie. And it's violent a little bit. It's got some decent shots in it. That's the biggest compliment I can give it, and it just wasn't that boring. So Halloween Ends was, for me at least, a very unfitting ending to the Halloween saga. I've already talked about it in a quickie, if you want to watch that. I don't really want to talk about this movie for that long. The ending, I guess, was kind of satisfying. Michael is dead. There'll probably be 11 more films over the next 50 years or so, you know, which may not seem like a lot, but if you space them out, then it's a lot of movies. Halloween lost its magic many moons ago. As soon as Halloween 3 came out, it's like, no. H2O was okay. The first of these, like, this reboot, soft reboot trilogy, Halloween 2018, was okay. It's a great film, in my opinion. I love it dearly. But honestly, if they just ended it at Halloween 2018, I think that would have been fine. Like, I don't think we needed more of this. It's just unfitting. It's just not a good movie. But as a conclusion to the overarching Michael Myers story, it's fine. He's just not scary anymore. So please stop making these movies. Don't worry, darling. I didn't love or hate this movie. I'm perfectly in the middle with it. It's well directed. Florence Pugh is an actor who I enjoy incredibly. I love her dearly. Harry Styles was okay in the movie. Can't complain. Like, I've never been a massive One Direction fan, and I don't really care about him. Like, he just doesn't appeal to me, I guess. Overall, I thought the movie was fine. Like, the twist was interesting. Aesthetically, it's pleasing. Obviously, it's like a 1950s homage with its set design and stuff. It's got a kind of mysterious, kind of creepy atmosphere here and there, but on the whole, it's the typical psychological torture through you being refused to be listened to by everyone around you, even though they might secretly know, yeah, you're not crazy, but they're going to treat you like you're crazy. It's interesting. It sets up an interesting kind of mystery. It kind of reminded me of Midsummer. I don't know, maybe if that's just because it's Florence Pugh, but in like a modern setting. So instead of being entrapped by older civilization type cult, you are in an older civilization type cult still, but it's still like a modern world with cars and record players and stuff. And to me, it just wasn't as good. And I was thinking about that the whole time I was watching it. Maybe the director, Olivia Wilde, maybe that's what she had in mind. I've got Florence Pugh in this movie. It's kind of cult-like almost. Maybe people will think of it as a modern-day 50s Midsummer with a science fiction twist. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. But like, just the story wasn't that interesting. I thought some of the acting wasn't great. It was just fine. I was very on the middle about it. It's not bad, it's not particularly scary, I don't think, as a horror film. It's not particularly shocking, but it has its moments. So, Mithrigan, as I'll be referring to it as, has awful acting, genuinely quite interesting, creepy on a concept level, practical effects, and the concept for the story is really interesting. It has some really funny characters and some really funny performances in it. Again, I don't really know if it's as intentional as everyone thinks it is. Maybe it is. It advertises itself as like a horror thriller. It doesn't advertise itself as a comedy. If it's supposed to be, they should have done a much better job, but I guess horror movies are more sellable. It does have some creepy moments. The only creepy one that comes to mind is, or like even like cringeworthy moment is when, like, cringeworthy in a good way, when she bites that kid's ear off and like crawls towards him. Like, the actor playing Mithrigan clearly really felt, at least physically speaking, attached to the role. She actually kind of came across as like a robot, and the way her voice was also pretty great as well. It was just a weird, kind of goofy, kind of funny, sometimes kind of frustrating movie. I think it definitely has more going for it than a lot of people seem to think it does. It's just really silly, and that's kind of what I love about it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just but then again, it has moments where it is taking itself seriously, and I'm like, God's sake. The silly plot twist was like, for God's sake, why? But overall, I do kind of want more movies like this, if it means cinema and box office stays alive and more horror movies get made, because horror is my favorite genre. I kind of regret not watching it sooner. I think I put it off for too long. I think if I had watched it like sooner, I would have maybe enjoyed it more. Maybe I would have enjoyed it less, even, God forbid. But it was an experience worth remembering. I've already forgotten most of it, to be honest, but I remember loving it dearly at the time. And shout out to the Asian character, I forget his name, but he was the standout for me, besides Mithrigan, of course. And the kid actor wasn't that bad either, in her defense. I mean, most kid actors are fucking horrible, but she was great.